Today we'll be covering Schedule C and depreciation. To add a form, simply click on Add Form or Control A on your keyboard. To select the Schedule C, you can click on it or type in C on the keyboard and enter, and it will load the Schedule C for you. Box A, it wants to know what type of business this is. Not the name of the business yet, just what type of business that they're in. For this example, we're going to say landscaping. Now you have to select the business code. The IRS has blessed you with a long book of codes to have to look through. You'll notice by clicking choices, it will give you a list of all the different descriptions and codes that you could select. Before you actually come to this screen, try going to the description field first. For example, this is a landscaping business. So if I start typing in landscaping, you'll notice that it grays it in. It says that we're talking about landscaping services. If you hit enter, it will fill that information in for you as well as the appropriate business code. This saves so much time when it comes to completing the tax return. Next is the business name. You would want to enter in the business name and, if applicable, the employer identification number. Now, you guys are the true tax professionals. I'm not going to go through and complete the entire form. I will, however, go through and show you some shortcut keys to completing this form. The next section I'll show you is under the income section. There's two different ways to enter in income on the Schedule C. One way is they bring you that shoebox of receipts that you are tallying up, and you can put in the total amount here on line 1. You can also hit Control W and go to an overflow detail statement where you can list out the individual amounts for them to total there in box 1. For this example, I'm just going to input $1,500 from gross sales or receipt. The next way income can come in to your Schedule C is maybe by a 1099. To get a 1099 to link to your Schedule C, you would want to have a Schedule C added to the tax return. Then you can link from line 2 or line 1 underneath gross receipt by clicking on the form links below. Select the appropriate 1099 you're adding. For this example, we're going to add the 1099 miscellaneous. Again, I'm not going to complete the whole form, but I want to show you box 7. This is a non-employee compensation. Let's say, for example, that this landscaper did landscaping for a business in town, and that business issued a 1099 for the work. So what you would do is come here to the non-employee section, put in the amount that's in that field. Below is where you're going to specify where you want this information to flow to. So once I click Link To box, you'll notice you have choices available. If I click choices, I can then select where I want this income to flow to. Do I want it to go to my other income line on my 1040, or do I want to link it to my Schedule C? For this example, we want to link that $1,500 to the Schedule C. So I'll select the Schedule C by double clicking, and now if I hit the escape button, it'll take me back to my Schedule C, and you can see that the 1099 miscellaneous income has pulled in to the second box under income. Now, let's talk about expenses. To enter in expenses, you'll come to the expenses part. This is where you're going to come through and enter all expenses. Depreciation, however, we're going to come back and talk about in just a few minutes. But let's talk about mileage. If they want to have mileage claimed for a vehicle, and it's strictly mileage is the only thing that they have kept up with, you would want to put the mileage piece in section 4 of the Schedule C. Here is where you would enter it in the date that they placed the vehicle in service, their total business miles, commuting miles, and then answer the 4 questions below. I'm not going to complete this section because I want to show you how else you can enter in mileage. So for example, the taxpayers come to you and they've brought you the mileage information as well as a shoebox of receipts of actual expenses for the vehicle for the year. And they want you to take the best deduction for them, be it actual or mileage. You can actually input both of these into the program and let the program decide what is going to be the better deduction for the taxpayer. To do that, you want to access the depreciation. To get to depreciation, you would want to hit Control-N on your keyboard. Once you hit Control-N, it will take you into your depreciation tab. Now you'll notice that there's 2 options here. You have your vehicle information and you also have your Schedule C. For this example, we're going to select Car Truck. Once I select Car Truck, it takes us into the Asset Center for the vehicle. To add a new asset, I'll simply click on New Asset. Once the new asset details pop up, you'll want to give the item the description name. So what is this? We're going to say that it is a Ford F-150. The date placed in service will calculate to the first day of the tax year. This field is something that you will need to ask the client when they place the vehicle in service. For this example, I'll leave it defaulted to the first day of the tax year. Below that, you have your business asset class code. You'll want to select the appropriate business asset class code. Based on the vehicle, we'll select the light-duty truck, van, SUVs under 6,000 pounds. Once we do that, it'll give us the convention as well as the years that it'll depreciate the asset. Once you select that, click on OK, and it'll take you into the asset class code. Here is where you would put in the amount that they paid for the asset. For this example, I'll say they gave $20,000 for the truck. On Enter, you'll notice that it will carry that information to the State tab. Below, you have questions you need to answer about the vehicle. Was the vehicle available for personal use? Yes. The vehicle used by more than a 5% owner? Yes. Is another vehicle available for personal use? Yes. Do you own this vehicle? Yes. The last 2 are force actual expenses, force standard mileage rate. If you want the program to decide which is going to be better for the client, you will want to say no to these 2 questions. Lastly, was acres or makers used in previous years? Because we placed this asset in service this tax season, that question's grayed out. Now you'll want to go to your Mileage and Expenses tab. Here is where you're going to put in the information for the mileage and the actual expenses. So up top, I'll put in 10,000 miles was the total miles put on the vehicle this year. Below that, you have your commuting miles. Commuting miles deducts what you have available to you. So for this example, we're going to say 2,000 of those miles were commuting. So we actually have 8,000 miles to play with. Below here is the list of the schedule. Now if you had multiple schedules, you could actually appropriately allocate the miles to each schedule. For this example, we're just going to say that they drove the vehicle 7,000 miles for the landscaping company. Now, we have 1,000 miles left over. That's not a problem because if you remember back on the General tab, we actually stated that the vehicle was available for personal use. So those other 1,000 miles could be the personal miles that we put on the vehicle. Below is the actual expenses. This is going to be that shoebox that they've brought to you on paying for gas for their vehicle, any repairs, any tolls they've paid, interest, and or taxes. You'll just simply total up those figures and put them into the appropriate fields. Once you've entered in all the actual expenses, you have the last two questions. Do you have evidence to support this deduction? And if yes, is the evidence written? You'll answer those two questions, and now we can click Close. Once we click Close, it's going to take you to the Special Depreciation Allowance. During certain time frames like 2008 through 2015, and then again from 2011 through 2016, the IRS allowed for the special depreciation, which basically allowed the taxpayer to take more of the depreciation the first year versus spreading it across all the years. For this example, we want to opt out of it. To opt out of the special depreciation, you simply place a check mark in the field underneath. If you wish to elect out of the special depreciation, please check the box to the right. Once I put that in, I'm going to click on OK and return to list. Now, once I return to list and close, I want you to watch the forms list because it's going to automatically build my 4562 as well as a car and truck form. So if you wanted to see what the program took, actual expenses or mileage, you would want to go to your car truck form, and as you can see here in this example, it's got the business mileage and the actual expenses. It gives you the general information, and if we look down below that, it actually looks at the actual expenses, and we can tell by this example that the greater profit for the customer is going to be mileage. So it's actually taken the mileage instead of the actual. So if we look here, the actual does not have the X in it. That lets us know too that it did not take actual, that it's taking the mileage. The actual expenses was only $2,772, where the deduction they're going to get for the mileage is the $4,025. So now if we go back to our Schedule C, you'll see here in section Expenses, line 9, that the vehicle information has automatically pulled in. So that's how you would let the program take the better of the two, actual or mileage, for your client. Now let's add a regular asset. We've talked about the vehicles and how you add a vehicle through depreciation, but what about the computer the customer bought to schedule their appointments? They need to depreciate that asset as well. So to access the depreciation module again, we'll want to hit Control N. This time we want to select the schedule. We'll select our Schedule C. Once we're in the Schedule C, it takes us into the business activity asset. Here is where we would build our asset list for any assets purchased for our Schedule C. For this example, we're going to create a new asset for a computer. So to add that asset, I simply click on New Asset. In the description, I'll put what it is. Again, you would put the date placed in service, the correct date, and then you'll select from the class codes the correct code. For this example, it's going to fall underneath computers or peripheral equipment. Once I select that and click on OK, it takes us into the asset class. Here is where you would give the amount they paid for the computer. It will carry to the State tab on Enter. And once we select Close, again, it shows us the special depreciation. Again, I want to opt out. So I'll put the check mark in the opt-out box and click on OK, and we have just depreciated our first regular asset for our Schedule C. If you needed to continue adding, you simply click on New Asset, and you would build your assets for this schedule. Again, when I return to List and I close, you can now see that our depreciation for our laptop has come back in to box 13 on our Schedule C. Depreciation can be complicated, but with the use of this program, anybody should be able to depreciate an asset. The only thing they need to know is how much it was, when they placed it in service, and what is it. If they have those 3 pieces of information, the program will do the rest. That concludes today's session. Thank you for watching.